Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamuddirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and then to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta praise for Bhadreshu Nichum Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. It's February 14th, 2021. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. We're on text 3. Okay, so text 3, Chapter 9, Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam. Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kala Mayayo Ramita Gata Samoha Tyaktva Udaste Tada Ubhayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalamayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Tyaktvodaste Tadobayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalamayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Tyaktvodaste Tadobayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalamayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Tyaktvodaste Tadobayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Tyaktvodaste Tadobayam Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalamayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Tyaktvodaste Tadobayam
Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve
Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve
Parasmin Kalamayayo
Parasmin Kalamayayo
Rameta Gata Samohas
Rameta Gata Samohas
Tyakvodaste tadobayam.
Tatvodaste tadobayam.
Yarhi Vava Mahini Sve
Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve
Parasmin Kalamayayo
Arasmin Kalamayayo
Ramate Gata Samohas
Ramita Gata Samohas
Yaktavadashate Tadgayam.
Takudase Tadobayam. Would anyone else like to recite the verse? Okay, we'll go to the word for word. This is text 3 of chapter 9 of canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yarhi,
Yahi.
at any time.
At any time.
Vava,
Bhava.
certainly.
Certainly.
Mahimni,
Mahini.
in the glory.
In the glory.
Sve,
Say.
of himself.
Of himself.
Parasmin,
Parasmi.
in the supreme.
In the supreme.
Kala,
Kala.
time.
Time.
Mayayo,
Mayayo.
of the material energy.
Of the material energy.
Rameta,
Rameta.
enjoys.
Rejoice.
Gata Samoha,
At the Samaha.
being freed from the misconception.
Being free from the misconception.
Tattva,
Rakta.
giving up.
Giving up.
Udaste,
Udaste.
in fullness.
In fullness.
Tada,
Tada.
then.
Then.
Ubayam,
Ubayam.
both.
Both.
The misconceptions of I and mine.
The misconception of I and mine.
Translation. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self. Situated in his constitutional glory. It's a glorious phrase there. Srila Prabhupada's purport: the two misconceptions of life, namely I and mine, are verily manifested in two classes of men. In the lower state, the conception of mine is very prominent, and in the higher state, the misconception of I is prominent. In the animal state of life, the misconception of mine is perceivable even in the category of cats and dogs, who fight with one another with the same misconception of mine. In the lower stage of human life, the same misconception is also prominent in the shape of it is my body, it is my house, it is my family, it is my caste, it is my nation, it is my country, and so on. And in the higher stage of speculative knowledge, the same misconception of mine is transformed into I am, or it is all I am, etc. There are many classes of men comprehending the same misconception of I and mine in different colors. But the real significance of I can be realized only when one is situated in the consciousness of I am the eternal servitor of the Lord. This is pure consciousness, and the whole Vedic literatures teach us this conception of life. The misconception of I am the Lord or I am the Supreme is more dangerous than the misconception of mine. Although there are sometimes directions in the Vedic literatures to think oneself one with the Lord, that does not mean that one becomes identical with the Lord in every respect. Undoubtedly, there is oneness of the living entity with the Lord in many respects, but ultimately, the living entity is subordinate to the Lord, and he is constitutionally meant for satisfying the senses of the Lord. The Lord therefore asks the conditioned souls to surrender unto him. Had the living entities not been subordinate to the supreme will, why would the living entity be asked to surrender? Had the living being been equal in all respects, then why was he put under the influence of Maya? We have already discussed many times that the material energy is controlled by the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita 9.10 confirms this controlling power of the Lord over the material nature. Can a living entity who claims to be as good as the Supreme Being control the material nature? The foolish I would reply that he will do so in the future. Even accepting that in the future one will be as good a controller of material nature as the Supreme Being, then why is one now under the control of material nature? The Bhagavad Gita says that one can be freed from the control of the material nature by surrendering unto the Supreme Lord. But if there is no surrender, then the living entity will never be able to control the material nature. So one must also give up this misconception of I by practicing the way of devotional service or firmly being situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. A poor man without any employment or occupation may undergo so many troubles in life, but if by chance the same man gets a good service under the government, he at once becomes happy. There is no profit in denying the supremacy of the Lord, who is the controller of all energies, but one should be constitutionally situated in one's own glory, namely to be situated in the pure consciousness of being the eternal servitor of the Lord. In his conditional life, the living entity is servant of the illusory Maya, and in his liberated state, he is the pure, unqualified servant of the Lord. To become untinged by the modes of material nature is the qualification for entering into the service of the Lord. As long as one is a servant of mental concoctions, one cannot be completely free from the disease of I and mine. The supreme truth is uncontaminated by the illusory energy because he is the controller of that energy. The relative truths are apt to be engrossed in illusory energy. The best purpose is served, however, when one is directly facing the supreme truth, as when one faces the sun. The sun overhead in the sky is full of light, but when the sun is not in the visible sky, all is in darkness. Similarly, when one is face to face with the Supreme Lord, he is freed from all illusions. And one who is not so is in the darkness of illusory Maya. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 26, confirms this as follows. Mam chiyo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So the science of bhakti yoga, of worshiping the Lord, glorifying the Lord, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from the right sources, not from the professional man, but from a person who is Bhagavatam in life, and being always in the association of pure devotees, should be adopted in earnestness. One should not be misled by misconceptions of I and mine. The karmis are fond of the conception of mine, the jnanis are fond of the conception of I, and both of them are unqualified to be free from the bondage of the illusory energy. Srimad Bhagavatam and primarily the Bhagavad Gita are both meant for delivering a person from the misconception of I and mine. And Srila Vyasadeva transcribed them for the deliverance of the fallen souls. The living entity has to be situated in the transcendental position where there is no more influence of time nor of the material energy. In conditioned life, the living entity is subjected to the influence of time in the dream of past, present, and future. The mental speculator tries to conquer the influence of time by future speculations of becoming Vasudeva or the Supreme Lord himself by means of culturing knowledge and conquering over ego. But the process is not perfect. The perfect process is to accept Lord Vasudeva as the supreme in everything. And the best perfection in culturing knowledge is to surrender unto him because he is the source of everything. Only in that conception can one get rid of the misconception of I and mine. Both Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam confirm it. Srila Vyasadeva has specifically contributed to the illusion living entities, the science of God, and the process of bhakti yoga in his great literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the conditioned soul should fully take advantage of this great science. Hare Krishna. So we're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 3. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpate Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desha Tarine Yarhi Vava Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kalamaya Yo Ramita Gata Samohas Chaktva Daste Tadobayam. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self. So Shukadev Goswami here is continuing the discussion of these mentalities, I and mine. You notice yesterday on Facebook, Laura, you posted a song that this reminded of you, reminded you of George Harrison's I, Me, Mine, which we can safely say is influenced by, not just him, like directly, he's giving Prabhupada, as he did often. Reading this purport, I thought of another song. I don't want to distract people into Maya, but there's a song, was it? This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. This is not my car. Okay, we don't need to get into it, but we can imagine that's also from 40 years ago. And Ramachandra smiling. Okay, so yes, so we can, so that's actually, it's, so the idea of the song is that someone comes, someone just living their material life, and they come to some realization that's just like, well, who am I really? This is just some temporary illusion. And that's true. So, okay, yeah, and that's true. And that's, so Prabhupada, so a lot of the musicians from that generation were very influenced by Prabhupada, directly or indirectly. So Prabhupada writes, the same misconception is also prominent in the shape of, it is my body, it is my house, it is my family, it is my caste, it is my nation, it is my country, and so on. And right, so Prabhupada's talking here about relative truth and absolute truth. Certainly we can use the relative in service to the absolute. We can use the temporary in the service of the eternal, the timeless. But we say like, okay, David Wolf, I'm 60 years old. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Okay, so these, oh yeah, true. Well, it's all relative truth, right? So was I David Wolf from Philadelphia a million years ago? Will I be David Wolf for a million years? No, that's all like bubbles in the ocean. That's all sandcastles. I don't know. So absolute truth, Jivera Srupa Hori Krishnera Nityadas. I'm not this body. I'm eternal spirit soul. Absolute means this is true in all time and space, past, present, future, all time and space. I'm spirit soul. I'm an eternal servant of God, not the body. These are absolute truths. And so we're fortunate to have access to this timeless wisdom, giving absolute truth. So Maya, we refer to that, Prabhupada refers to it as the illusory energy. And just to be clear, there's nothing illusory about the illusory energy, meaning the energy is real. The energy is real, okay? Because there are some branches of philosophers that say, no, material energy is false. No, the energy is real. Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 basic subject matters. One is Ishvara, or God, or the Supreme. Another is Jiva, the individual living entity, the spirit soul. That's us, Jiva, Ishvara, Jiva. And another is time, Kala. A fourth is karma, action, reaction. And a fifth is Prakriti, material energy. And so they're all real. 4 of them are eternal. The one that's not eternal is karma. Karma can be destroyed forever. Karma can be eliminated. So to use how can karma be destroyed? Through conscious living, through knowledge, through consciousness, through acting in transcendence. So to use it, karma as an excuse is not valid philosophically. We can change our karma. We can transcend it. That's all described in Bhagavad Gita. So Prakriti is real. The forms it takes are temporary, right? My house, this house, this car. The forms are this nation, this empire. The forms are temporary, and my perception. So the whole material world is made of Maya. Maya is made of the 3 gunas, 3 modes of material energy. The material world is made of Maya. Maya it functions in a few ways, and we are under Maya, right? So the material world is made of Maya, and that's like guna Maya, and then the jiva comes under the influence of Maya. And so the energy is real, the forms are temporary, and the way I perceive the forms is illusory. So this body, it's real. The form is temporary, and I'm thinking this is me. Okay, that's illusion. That's illusion. And this is my house. This is my car. This is my my family, my nation. That's illusion, right? Because I'm not this body. This body is like a dream. It's like in the song, he's waking up from the dream of material life. Just like in a dream, we might be in a palace, or we're chased by a monster. That's all illusory. There's no, that the palace and the monster, they exist only for that illusory person in the dream. So this bhakti yoga is about waking up to our real life, to absolute truth of who I am as not the body, spirit, soul. That's how we come out of Maya. Tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta pusham param. To engage with intensity in bhakti yoga steadily, then we experience ourselves coming out of the illusion of the false identity. This is not my car, it's like that. And that is so exciting, and it's also scary. It can be scary to the extent that I'm attached to this identity, to the extent that I'm attached to this identity. This body is me, and this is my family, and this is my bank account, and this is, to the extent that I'm attached to the false identity, then to the process of liberation is scary. And to the extent that I'm attached to realizing who I really am in a timeless sense, then the process is a true thrill and adventure. So Prabhupada expounds on two versions, two prominent manifestations of the Maya energy, the I and the mind. Interestingly, Prabhupada, he talks about how it's a higher conception than mine. Mine is just basically animal life. This is my turf, and this is my turf, and my turf for food and mating and sleeping and this is mine. And so if that's where we're absorbed, then Dvipada Pashu, then we're like two-legged animals. And then a higher conception coming out of kind of that animalistic conception is the idea of I. Yes, like I am God, I am everything, I am spirit, I am not matter. So Prabhupada has the Jnani conception of I as higher than the karmic conception of mind. At the same time, he's emphasizing that the Jnani conception of I is more dangerous. So it's higher and it's more dangerous. It is said a little knowledge is dangerous. A little knowledge is dangerous. Right? So, okay. So it's important to realize that, yes, I'm not the body. To come out of that conception, this is not me, at least intellectually, to realize. And then as we practice a bona fide spiritual practice, we get more and more realization. Okay, and that's not complete. So I'm not the body. And who am I positively? Because some philosophies and approaches, yes, you're not this, you're not that, you're not that. And that's helpful to realize illusion. And yeah, I'm not that, I'm not that. I'm actually not. Yeah, okay. But then there's incompleteness. Those philosophies, that will often not, but who am I positively? Oh, you're not this, you're not that, you're nothing. How? For me, that's never been a satisfying conclusion. At the core, you're nothing. We talk a lot about that, like in Safeto programs, right? Since the late 1970s, I've been to a lot of seminars, and there are two basic philosophies, two basic approaches to transformation. The blank slate approach, and where the idea is at the core, we are nothing. And on the foundation of that nothing, we can invent any possibility we choose. I've seen seminar rooms with hundreds of people jumping up and down and celebrating, we are nothing, we are nothing, we are nothing. I've seen it. Yeah. So, okay. So I was never particularly inspired by that. Okay. Because just like axiomatically, I'm just my experience, like it seems like I am a substantial entity. Seems like I am a substantial entity. And so, so in Safeto, transformative communication, we don't come from the blank slate approach. We come from the diamond approach. Metaphorically, we're not nothing. We're the irreducible quantum of consciousness that animates the body, spirit, soul. Dihino spin yatadehe komaram yovanamjara tatadehantara pratyudirasta as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. So we are that spirit soul, that atomic unit of sentience. And the term sentience is very important. Sentience means has senses. We talked about that last night in response to a question from a Prabhu in New Zealand. Very great question. And so the soul has eyes, the soul has ears, the soul has smelling capacity, walking capacity. And right now, those spiritual senses are covered by subtle and gross material energy. Still, from the form of the material body, we can get a sense of the spiritual body, just like, okay, my shirt has sleeves and the pants and shirt have a particular form because the body has a form, right? And so similarly, our senses, eyes, our senses give an indication that the soul that's covered by the material energy also has senses. So, okay, so a little knowledge can be dangerous. So it's helpful to realize I'm not the body. Okay, but who am I positively? Oh, I'm spirit. Nice. And that's not complete either. So not just I am spirit. Am I it's kind of like a common. It's somewhat of a garden variety spiritual realization. right? We are all one. I am you and you are me. And we are all one. And everything is all one. It's pretty common. And there's truth to it. No, as far as that is the absolute truth, many people espouse it. We just the whole idea of any separation, it's illusory. We're all one. So many people espouse it, and no one actually believes it. Right? No one actually, like, okay, we're all one. I am you, you are me. If the wallet in your pocket were in my pocket, it would be the same. Right? There's now because I am you and you are me. So, but till now, no one's given me their wallet because you don't really believe that we're completely one. Right? No one actually believes it. This important point. It's like a cool thing to say, right? Okay. So okay. So we, as Prabhupada discusses here, we do share qualities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the sun rays share qualities with the sun, and we're not exactly the same. Right. There's also differences, just like the sun rays they emanate heat and light like the sun globe, but the sun rays are also different in quantity than the sun globe. The drop of water contains pretty much all the chemicals of the big ocean in one drop. So the drop in the ocean, they have similarities. At the same time, the drop doesn't have tidal waves. The ocean has tidal waves, right? So there's also differences. So we're not completely different from God, and we're not exactly the same. And then this philosophy of Bhagavatam, it's called Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, meaning inconceivably and simultaneously one and different. And actually, for me, this is over the years and decades, it's been very helpful, this Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva approach. Helpful as a context, as a framework to understand other approaches to philosophy. Other approaches have tended, from my perception, either to overemphasize the oneness, we are all one. Okay, there's truth there, definitely there's truth, or to overemphasize the difference. Oh, if there is a God, God is so far away, it doesn't matter. So Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva is the science of realizing, yes, how we're the same and how we're different from the Supreme and from each other. We're eternal, distinctive individuals. That describes our timeless, eternal individuality. Never was there a time that I did not exist, says Krishna to Arjuna, nor you, nor all these kings on the battlefield, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be as persons. Prabhupada wrote in a well-known poem to his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. So the absolute is sentient, and that this is emphasized in this purport. The Prabhupada's saying, like, from compassion, that if we really want to come out of Maya, and that's like, we're urged to like really want that, to be captivated, make that our goal, because Maya is to be in that illusion, just like whatever, illusion. It means we're intoxicated with illusion. So we can just imagine a drunk person. We've been under intoxication or like that, and it's just like, even someone's thinking they're happy, but it's just like a pathetic situation. It's a pathetic situation. So this is suffering. It's a festival of misery in illusory life. So Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, very pessimistic about attempts for fulfillment and joy, peace, love, security in the world of Maya, and very optimistic about eternal, ever-expanding joy in engaging our senses, Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti Uchute, engaging our senses to serve and please the Supreme Person, the senses of Rishikesh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then that's the platform to come out of Maya. And Krishna makes it very clear, because there's some conceptions that, well, there's the undifferentiated oneness, and that's the only real reality. And somehow out of that undifferentiated energy pops out Krishna, or pops out us, so Krishna makes it clear. Vyaktim vyaktim apanam manyante mama buddhaya parambhava majananto amavyam anutama. Krishna says no. He says no. The form of God does not pop out of the undifferentiated energy. No, that all energies, Maya, including the energy of Maya, which is real, right? Maya is not illusory. Maya is a real energy that has an illusory effect on us when we invite it, right? So it's not like, I'm just a victim of Maya. No, we invite it. We invite it. We attract it when we want something other than our constitutional position as servants of Krishna. So Krishna says, no, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of all energies, is the source of all energies. And even if someone has understood, I'm not the body and I'm spirit, okay, but more than that is, I'm an individual, eternal, personal spirit soul. And without that realization, as Prabhupada emphasizes in this purport, there's no surrender. And without surrender, we stay in Maya. Yene ravindaksha vimukti maninas trayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhayo aruya kritrina prampadam tata patantyadon and richa yushmad angraya. That describes even someone who's realized they're not the body, and they are spirit, but because the nature of the soul, the nature of the self is to desire, then if we've not cultivated desire to serve Krishna through serving his pure devotee, we emphasized this a lot yesterday. We had a few programs yesterday. We enthusiastically accept and embrace Srila Prabhupada as our current link to the Parampara. We know how to please Krishna by serving Srila Prabhupada. And if we haven't developed that desire, then the spirit soul comes back, falls back down to material desire and conceptions of I and mine. So Prabhupada's warning, he said, the I conception, I am everything, is higher than the animalistic mind conception, and it's also more dangerous. And we probably experience, like, trying to share the principles of bhakti yoga might be easier to someone who's interested in drinking a beer and watching the football game than maybe someone who's I already know all about yoga and things like that. Right? A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, because then it's one thing to appreciate and realize the oneness of everything. And then if we stop there and think, and that's the absolute, and there's nothing beyond that, then that becomes a stumbling block on our path of self-realization. Because then that mentality, we become envious. That mentality represents enviousness of the personality of Godhead. Prabhupada expounds on this psychology in a special, wonderful purport, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 10. The verse is Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamu Pashucha Bhavo Gyana Tapasa Putamad Bhavamagata. And Prabhupada describes there the different psychologies why people are attracted to a nothingness philosophy, void philosophy, impersonal philosophy, related to frustration, with material relationships, and then rejecting the possibility of relationships when one comes to enlightenment. It's rejecting the possibility of truly spiritual relationships because I've had such sour, bitter experiences with material relationships. Or someone becomes even more cynical, and then they go to philosophies of, okay, ultimately everything is just void and nothing, a nihilistic philosophy, right? So we can understand that philosophically. We can look at ourselves, tendencies for materialism, for voidism, for impersonalism in ourselves that prevent us from full, enthusiastic, inspired surrender to this process of bhakti, to devotional service. And so the verse and the purport talk about time. So as we approach transcendence, then we experience timelessness. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Brahma bhuta prasanatmana shochati nakankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. And I thought about that verse in reading this purport. So Krishna says, yes, that because that stage of Brahman realization, that is sattvic. That is sattvic. And the emphasis is don't stop there. Yeah, sure. Realize the light. We quoted yesterday William Blake, God appears and God is light to those poor souls who dwell in night. Yet does a human form display to those who dwell in realms of day. So the light, that's nice. And we're encouraged, don't stop there. Go to, as the Upanishads pray, Hiranmayena Patrina Satyasya Pitam Mukam Tattvam Pushan Apavrinu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaye. The Upanishads pray to Krishna, please remove the golden glaring effulgence because we want to see your smiling face. That's the Vedas themselves praying. So still, the light, the transcendence to matter, that is sattvic. And as we approach sattva, our anxiety decreases. It's a clear correlation. The lower modes means attachment to I, me, and mine. I am this body, this is mine. Anxiety, fear, anxiety, fear. Even if we get what I want, I might lose it. Fear. So as we come to higher modes in our habits, in our worldview, in our thoughts, towards sattva, we experience a timeless experience. Often in a Sapphitos seminar room, we're like in the room for 6 days, and people experience it like, of course, one of our ground rules is no timepieces while the seminar is in session. But people experience like it was a timeless experience. I wasn't even thinking about eating or sleeping or mating or like that. It was like a timeless experience. Was that 2 hours? Was that 20 hours? Okay. And that's because our emphasis there is consciousness. Our emphasis is consciousness, sacred space, complete commitment to self-realization. So that's taken to the ultimate as we approach sattva and Shuddha sattva. Then no more hankering for a future. I'll be happy when that, and no more lamenting about the past. I'm so shameful that, it's one thing to consciously visit the past, to learn from it. It's one thing to consciously enter the future and plan for the future, being fully present in the present. That's something that's different. That's different than anxiety and lamentation controlling us to wallow in the past or be an anxiety about the future. Right? It's a distinction between living in the moment and living for the moment. Okay, so we can live in the moment, that's sattvic, or even Shuddha sattvic, live in the moment and choose to direct our thoughts to analyze the past or plan for the future. That's different than being controlled by anxiety and fear and Maya in different forms. And okay, so that's why, because it's natural to want to serve and help people. Right? It's natural to go for happiness, to go for knowledge, to go for eternity. On the ride here 6-minute ride here, I turned on lectures from Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was talking about insurance policies. He was talking about bank accounts. He was. They thought I'd see what he was talking about. Bhagavad Gita. Next, talk about insurance policies. He said, "Why do you get all these insurance policies in these bank accounts?" Yes, because you want to be eternal. Because you want to be eternal, and you're trying to arrange that you'll live forever, and that's natural because our nature is deathless. And Prabhupada's not discouraging us necessarily from getting insurance policies. That might be our service to take care of the body, so we can use the body in Krishna's service. So we want to be eternal, and our nature is to serve. And so it's important that in our attempts to help, our attempts are founded and based in knowledge. Otherwise, the simple example we gave just a few hours ago in the program last night. Otherwise, I want to help, so I'll give a donation to this fine fellow on the street. And I'm not saying don't do that, because I don't know it, but we're just using it as an example. And then he uses it to buy drugs and sell them to teenagers in the high school. So I'm at home thinking I'm a very good person, but it was really quite an ignorant act. I didn't help the world. So real service, as opposed to forms of rearranging the chairs on the Titanic, real service is service that really supports ourselves and others to liberate ourselves from this cycle of I, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine, birth, death, old age, disease. Because right now I'm thinking, I am David. Well, okay, so 100 years I had a different conception of mine, and this is my family, and this is my community, and this is my vehicle. And then 100 years from now, I'll have a different conception of illusion. That's the source of more and more pain and misery in the prison house, the Durga of material existence. So that's real service, to learn the art, cultivate mastery in the art and science of how to really help people, solve the core pillar problems of existence: birth, death, old age, disease, being stuck in this cycle of one illusory context of I, me, mine, and then the next illusory context of I, me, mine, to wake up from the dream. So text 3 here that we read, the verse is Yarhi Baba Mahimni Sve Parasmin Kala Mayayo Rameta Gata Samohas Chaktvo Daste Tadobayam. As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory and begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the 2 misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your presence and attention. I welcome at this time if anyone would like to share any comments or ask any questions. Len.
Thank you, David. So what's popping up for me is there's so much emphasis on service and surrender, basically. Devotional service, serve God. This is the way out of our material illusion. And then on the other side of service and surrender, I see love, okay? Which love is also important. Love for Godhead, love for Krishna. So I look at servitude as somehow, for me, it has like negative connotations, and like, you have the master and you have the servant. Does the servant really love the master that he's serving? No, the servant probably resents the master. And then also, like say the gopis, okay, and now I don't. this is a little more transcendental, but the gopis have the greatest love for Krishna than anybody else, and this blows Krishna's mind. He can't even conceive of it. But they're not. They're in the Leela of Madhurya, conjugal relationships, which are sort of like more equal, that kind of love. Parental, that's more of a service attitude. The parent serves the child, So, this is just, I don't really have a question, but maybe you can speak about this difference between servitude and love. To me, like love is a lot more easier to accept, this idea of love for God, than it is serving God. God doesn't need our service. He's complete, but he really wants our love. Yes, that I have no problem accepting. But the service attitude and in devotional service, maybe you could just speak a few words about that and help me with my.
No. Actually, if you go down aisle 3, it's on the bottom shelf. Yeah, will you show him the big bags of Sizzler comes right down aisle 3?
Biggest one you got.
Okay. Thank you, Len. Thanks for your sharing and questions. Yeah, I appreciate what you expressed. And okay, so, and I understand that, and Prabhupada addresses this. He says, in the material conception, service is humiliating. I don't want to be servant, I want to be master. And that's why the idea of bhakti can be so abhorrent for some, right? Servant, I want to be master. And then the topmost form of that is I become God. As Prabhupada says, like, I haven't, right now I'm struggling and I can't find my car keys, but I'm on my way to become the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, supreme. And right now I'm trying to figure out my taxes, but anyhow, I'm on the way because that's it. I get to be the master. So servant, this whole idea of servant and service, yes, that has it has a negative connotation. It's humiliating. All right, and so okay, and then so love means a voluntary exchange of affection between two entities. So any of these philosophies that are about we're all one, it's all one. There's no love there because love means a voluntary exchange, and it's a voluntary exchange of affection and of service. Right? If I love someone, how can I serve you? So we talked the other day, a few days ago. Melanie was giving class, and Brielle made a comment, and I shared an analogy. So like Maya is like female energy, and Maya serves Vishnu, Krishna, as like a maidservant, right? Just like a maidservant is outside of the palace, and Maya is like a shadow, and just like a shadow is dependent on and controlled by the person, but the shadow does not affect the person. So Maya does not affect Krishna or Vishnu, just as the sun creates the shadows, but there are no shadows in the sun. But then there's another female person who's like the queen. Okay, that'd be like Srimati Radharani or Lakshmi Devi, like that. But they're in the inner chambers, and they do have influence because of that loving service relationship. So if the idea of love is more attractive and rather than service, then we can focus there. And so it's just like it's about transforming everything. transforming our direction of charity, our attempts at happiness, our attempts at knowledge, to transform them from material to spiritual. Also, it's about transforming our conception. So in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami, as Prabhupada translates it, he uses the term, is situated in his constitutional glory, right? So that's like, oh, to realize my nature as a servant of Krishna, that's not humiliating, that's glorious. That's glorious. And then to realize that, it means we need to rise above the conception. I don't just want to be like a servant of the, I want to be the CEO. I want to be the prime minister. I want to be God. I want to be master. So spiritual conception is, it's my constitutional glory. So this is part of our transformation, to transform our conception of service. And okay, and then as far as those, yeah, so okay, like as far as those more intimate rasas, like gopis, Krishna, cowherd boys, and Krishna. So they're, like they, okay, like the gopis do control Krishna with their love, but their love means all they want is to serve Krishna. They're not interested in their own, they're not interested, I am beautiful, look at me, look at me. They're just dressing themselves to please Krishna. They're all about service. They're all about service. There's nothing material, look at me, look at me. They're just completely surrendered servants, so surrendered that they have this very intimate relationship where they get to control Krishna by their love. Currently, speaking for myself, my relationship with Krishna is I am very attracted to his energy called Maya. That's my current relationship with Krishna. And so my service is to transform my attraction, rather than to Maya, to become attracted to serving Krishna through his pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. And so this is like practice. We get to practice in this human form. We get to practice here. And by practicing means to develop that service attitude. And then as we advance in that, as we're completely free from impurities in the heart, then Krishna reveals, just like the sun reveals itself as it rises, then Krishna reveals without us trying to force something in some artificial way, which often takes gross forms. Then Krishna reveals, and that revelation of our more intimate ras, that comes like after the anartha nivritti stage, after the purification stage. If I'm still attracted to waste time on internet, or I've got envy in my heart or lust, then no, it's like I'm not at that stage. And so importantly, the cowherd boys and Krishna's parents, Yashoda, the gopis, they're all about serving Krishna. That's what it's all about. That's why we say, when Prabhupada got on the Jaladuta at the age of 70, penniless, and crossed the Atlantic, that's the mood of the gopis. How can I serve Krishna? Otherwise, I just want to love Krishna in the bushes of Vrindavan. Without that grounded, intense, how can I serve Krishna? How can I give everything to serve Krishna? That becomes kind of empty. Now, Len, your question has sparked lots of enthusiasm for comments, and I see lots of hand raised online. And okay, and so I want to hear all the comments and discussion. So Malini, if you can be sure to speak loud enough.
I will speak loud enough, but there is a conception like I want to be master, I don't want to serve in a material existence. And also, what I know about everyone in the material world, or human being I know, is that when they love someone, or when they have some attraction towards someone, or when they want someone's attention, or when they want to have an exchange of so-called love with someone, they serve.
Yes, sir.
It's like completely natural, and there is no sense of like, I don't want to serve, I want to be the master. You know, people serve their dog, people serve their children, people serve, you know, like we see, like the many times I fall in love in my life, I just wanted to do anything for that person.
Yeah.
Anything for that person. I could run down to the ground in order to please that person with my service. So that aspect is not something in the spiritual world. We can also experience it here.
Yeah.
You know, there is that conception like I don't want to be servant, I want to be the master. This is true. It is part of our misconception.
But even in the material,
that spiritual is also in the material.
It's there, complete, the love. And consistent with Damayanti wrote, service is a natural expression of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in the material realm.
Even on the material platform, we see people, you know, we see people serving anything, anyone.
Yeah.
Because they want that exchange of love.
Yeah.
And that's how it's manifesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So naturally for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's going to manifest that way too. And maybe because we don't feel the love, it's more difficult. And through service, we get practice.
Thanks for that, Melanie. Laura.
I like this discussion about the word service and love. I was like inspired to look up the definition of serve. I was like, what does that mean? And it seems like the definition itself is based on something different perhaps than what we're discussing. And I get there's like a spiritual quality to serve this, and also that, like what you were saying, Melanie, service can also be in the material world. And I think naturally wanting to serve someone you love. And then I had a question, just like something you said. I was curious what you meant when you said that you were attracted to Krishna's Maya energies.
Yeah.
If you could, I'm just curious what that meant.
Okay, sure. I'll just briefly expand on that. Thanks for your comment and question, Laura. Yeah. So because sometimes again too, it's like, who am I in the spiritual world? Who am I in Vrindavan? Yes. Am I a peacock in Vrindavan? Maybe I'm a maybe I'm a bumblebee on a garland of one of the gopis who serves Krishna. Maybe I am a gopi like that. So usually those conversations, I experience them as either just comical or worse than useless, like a distraction from meeting myself where I'm at now. So where I'm at now in my relation with Krishna is I'm attracted to Maya. I'm attracted to illusion. I'm attracted to I, me, and mine. I'm just like, let's meet myself where I'm at now. Here's where I'm at. And I want to get to that love. Not that I want it really bad. If I did, I'd be progressing a lot faster than I am. But okay, I pretty much know where I want to go. Prabhupada, he's like giving us the manual on behalf of the Vedas. And so, okay, so let me work hard, because oftentimes, the gopis, it's like at the expense of working hard and being steady in my sadhana. Sadhana means regulated devotional practice, like morning program, reading Prabhupada's books every day, chanting, we're fulfilling our vow for chanting every day. So oftentimes, the spiritual world, gopis, it can become a distraction from meeting myself where I'm at and doing the hard work, the heavy lifting to move forward in spiritual life. Thank you, Laura. Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you, David, for the class. I think what stood for me was experiencing how you give us sort of like a healthy way to embrace illusion rather than wallow in that, but to let illusion push us, let us while acknowledging illusion, push us further in our Krishna consciousness. And that expression too of being situated in one glory was really, really highlighted for me. I think at the end, Prabhupada, for me, kind of was giving a hint to Pondraka's pastime. It was like saying the metal speculators that by trying to become Vasudev, by conquering the influence of time, and future speculators become Vasudev or something like that. And it's sort of like the two extremes that, we accept that we are part and parcel of God, or we just left out to trying to imitate him. And I mean, I feel like I and like everyone deserve and want like this healthy amount of pride that we can just experience by being situated in our constitutional position. And on the other side, Pondrak, to get that pride, he was literally putting, I think he like installed arms, right? Fake arms on his body just to imitate God, which was very humorous in the Krishna book. Another thing that I wanted to share that was funny for me to hear from you about the oneness analogy and the wallet. I think you mentioned something about my money is your money, whatever. And I use that line actually many times when I would meet people who would partake in that philosophy. I'll use that line on book distribution, like, oh, like we are all one. So you can give me your money for the book, and later you're going to become one with the book and with the money. So you're not going to lose anything. And I would sell many books like that. Maybe Mother Malini can relate to that. And my question, I had a question in mind that I wanted to ask when you were sharing around being like sort of stuck or in the sphere of what is there more to advance or something like that. Like how am I personally can be more appreciative of the process in order to continue to advance? Because that's what I felt is like the key point, are my personal appreciation of the process to continue the process authentically. And to ask if you would like to extrapolate on that a bit.
Okay, I appreciate your sharing. Ramchandra is referring to the Pandraka pastime in Krishna book. And yeah, it seems like Prabhupada's alluding to that when he says wanting to be Vasudeva, wanting to be God. And I hear you asking, yeah, how to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Even in mundane social science research clearly indicates that the quality that most correlates with happiness is gratitude. And so I just wanted to share that. This is mundane social science research. I'll just, Brielle wrote, because I think it's connected to where I want to go in my response. Brielle wrote, I think for women, it's easier to understand service as natural expression of love. I would say that is a true gender psychology, and it's an advantage of the female human form to take to bhakti. The male human form tends to have some advantages, and the female human form tends to have some advantages. And that's definitely an advantage of the female form more easily, because the male form can be more of kind of like service. I want to be the master. So that gets in the way of the flow of bhakti. And so, yeah, so develop, this appreciation, whether we're in a male form or female form, to cultivate an appreciation for the opportunity to serve, to shift from have to get to. I have to serve. I have to do service. I have to wash this. I get to wash the dishes for Krishna, for Krishna service. I get to clean my body for Krishna service. I get to come to morning program. So, Prabhupada's first center on 2nd Avenue in 1966, on the window it said matchless gifts. Before his first followers got the place for him, it was apparently there was a gift store called Matchless Gifts there on 2nd Avenue in Manhattan. And so they wanted to, take that off because they were creating a temple. But Prabhupada said, no, keep that. That's clearly Krishna's arrangement. So we get to appreciate more each day that this isn't just something good. There's nothing that compares. Like there's nothing that compares to the opportunity to engage in this process. Nothing that compares. And so, my sense is like the more we practice with some sincerity, the more our experience of relief from misery, maybe even some positive joy, but the relief from misery, that should naturally move me to a fuller, joyful gratitude. Thank you, Prabhupada, for giving me this process. Thank you, Ramachandra.
Thank you.
Oh, there are, but okay. Okay. Bhakta George.
Hi, Krishna. It's actually Danielle. Thank you so much for this class this morning. I just wanted to share that it's really bringing up a lot for me in regards to what I've been meditating on the last couple of weeks. I just recently with one of my housemates was having a conversation about when we die, all the stuff that we leave behind and how to deal with all the stuff, you know, the material trappings that we collect and that are ours, and how it's such a burden almost, you know, position on people's, it's a huge amount of time and effort. It's everybody has to organize the stuff and then reorganize the stuff, and then it has to be reallocated, and then it's got to go places. The stuff doesn't go away. So you're right, it's not illusory in the sense of, okay, you're gone, the stuff pops out of existence. So I've been trying to extrapolate that into other areas that I feel like I've been neglecting or I've been resisting the context in. And one of them is this body that I inhabit. Like I don't like it and I resent it, and I have a really conflicted relationship with it till now. And I've been in this question of, okay, so formerly I was resisting with objects and material objects. You know, I don't want to own them. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to have them. I'm just going to be a minimalist and have like two things. But, you know, I also manifested a householder life, and there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that. So I've really had to reconcile owning things and using them purposefully. Like, all right, I have this thing. What do I do with this thing? And that's been successful. I've been feeling pretty good about that. So I thought to myself, all right, well, let's try to do that with this body. Like, what does it mean to own a body and be a servant of Krishna? Like, what do I do with this thing? So I changed my fuel. I changed my oil, you know, changed the different types of things that I was putting into myself, and crazy difference, dear Govinda. Like, I wake up in the morning now. It's crazy. Like, I never woke up in the morning before. It just didn't happen for me. I was just like this sluggish person in the morning. It just never woke up. And every time I would try to like set some goals around waking up, it didn't happen. You know, there was no forcing myself to wake up in the morning. It didn't matter what the motivation was. It just wasn't there for me. And so when I was trying to go at it, you know, like I felt like I was watering the leaves. Like I was like, all right, I'm going to wake up in the morning, and that's my watering the root. But it wasn't watering the root for me. I was really forcing myself into these paradigms of like all or nothing, or like I should be, and I'm really resisting the context. And it's only when I came at it, what I thought was this like sideways or backwards position of like, all right, I'm just going to change the fuel that I'm putting in the car. I'm going to just see how that goes. And I started waking up early, and I have so much more energy, and I really feel much more committed to my spiritual practice. So I don't know. I feel like, you know, we're not these bodies. We hear that so much, but really like internalizing it and saying, okay, I don't own anything, but I have these things to utilize. And what does that really look like for me in my life? I guess that's the present question that I have. And that's where I'm developing more exploration, and hearing everybody. It's really reconfirming for me that like that's the root for me. It's like, how do I really engage everything in Krishna service? Not just like get up artificially early and resent myself and resent everybody for like being awake, you know? So Hare Krishna, thanks for being here and supporting all of us.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate your sharing. Yes. Yeah, I hear that you being in that question, you're co-creating with Krishna transformation that gets at watering the root of the tree, transformation from really an impersonalist conception of rejection of matter. One thing is trying to indulge, enjoy matter, materialism, rejection of the material things. And then you're getting to the bhakti conception, the personalist conception. These are not my things, but I don't want to run to the forest artificially let me be in the question, how can I use these things, relationships, residence, vehicles, how can I use these things in meaningful devotional service? And I get that that's transformational for your consciousness. Thanks for sharing, Danielle. Daru Brahma.
I didn't press that. I'm sorry. It wasn't me.
Okay. Gendra.
I'm wondering what your thought is about the benefit of service of someone who may have a conception, like Prabhupada is referencing, these conceptions of like, it is my family, it is my nation, it is my country. So when you have someone who is like a soldier, and the soldier is not in a direct conscious way thinking, I'm a service of Krishna, I'm performing Daivivan Ashram or something like that. But he has this conception of, these are my band of brothers, this is my nation, I'm fighting for freedom, to protect people. And he sacrifices, or she sacrifices their life in service. Is there any benefit to what they're doing, acting under that conception, such an act that is self-sacrificial of the body, of one's life?
Yeah, I appreciate what you're expressing, Gajendra Prabhu. And yes, it's dharmic, it's responsible, it's not transcendental, but it is dharmic. It's it's Vedic. Dharma, artha, kama. The idea is like if one acts dharmically, responsibly in their job as a soldier for country, they're sacrificing immediate animal-like sense. I just want to enjoy my senses. They're sacrificing that for something bigger than themselves. It's very Bhagavad Gita, right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes a progression. Okay, there's the pure devotional service, and there's sadhana bhakti, then there's karma yoga. And Krishna says, and okay, like whatever, you're not ready for any of that, then at least serve something bigger than yourself. Yeah, serve your community, serve your nation. And that in itself, it's virtuous, it's dharmic, and that will lead to higher and higher consciousness. So yes, it's dharmic, it's virtuous. It's not to be minimized.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gajendra. Laura.
Hang on one sec. There we go. Good morning, Hare Krishna. I just gonna share kind of what came up for me when we were talking about, so I've been actually reading this and considering a lot of this prior to today. So I appreciate talking about it again. In relationship to my personal experience, I'm to the point where I'm saying like, my daughter isn't my daughter. And sorry, she's now of course chiming in. Can you still hear me, David?
Yes, I am hearing you.
Okay, so I'm to the point where I'm saying my daughter isn't my daughter. She might have come through me and through my body, but she doesn't belong to me. And in that mindset, I'm okay. Well, I'm not really okay. I mean, I'm trying to adopt that mindset, and yet there's still like a lot of sadness and grief over the situation, but the anxiety has come down. So I'm in the bigger picture, I kind of seeing that, Maya creates this story, or the energies, or the situations of life. And by kind of removing myself or stepping away from that to say that's not mine, the anxiety level has completely come down. Yet the grief is still there. And again, I find, I don't know, is it to the point of apathy that I'm letting that go, or getting to that point where I can say, well, that's not mine. But I like how the anxiety level has come down a little bit. And then dealing, I guess somewhat dealing with the reaction of the other Maya to my reaction of stepping away from that, like other people's perceptions and their judgment of me for that, and the legal system and all that other nonsense. So I appreciate just kind of putting that out there and really trying to perceive myself in that very, like, I'm just a little dot on this planet and floating through the universe. So trying to kind of put it at that perspective, that if I don't engage with the story of Maya and know that those things don't belong to me, then all I have left is my reaction to Maya. And that's where I guess we're trying to focus our energies while we're here for now.
Thank you, Laura. I'm moved by your sharing. I know it's an emotional topic for you. And I appreciate how, in a very grounded, practical way, you're endeavoring sincerely to apply these principles from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in very emotionally charged areas of your life. And again, I'm inspired because I hear what you're doing is that you're kind of more and more transforming your focus from the story in the illusory forms, the drama, to your internal experience and process. And that is, it's distinctively human, like to be able to transform from the story to, okay, what's my process here? What's my response? What's my reaction to the drama? And that moves us to internal benefit rather than trying to solve this crisis or that crisis. Not to irresponsibly run from, whatever the responsibilities are. At the same time, the focus is your internal process. And I get that naturally you continue to experience grief and sadness, and simultaneously you're encouraged. You're feeling some freedom from the intensity of anxiety in that shift from the drama to your internal experience. Thank you, Laura. Malini, did you have a comment?
Question?
Question, okay.
It's kind of connected
Yeah.
in some ways. I was thinking like in that purpose, there is a lot of mention of surrender.
Yeah.
And connecting with what Daniel was sharing, we have a body, a vehicle. And then there is so many decisions to make connected with the body.
Yeah.
And no idea, those decisions are infused with guidance from Super Soul.
Yeah.
But then let's say we are in a position we don't hear Super Soul.
Yeah.
And then what does it mean to make decision? Let's say the vehicle is broken.
Yeah.
It's broken, you need to go to the shop.
Right.
And then there is so many mechanics.
Yeah.
And there is so many mechanics that may say, well, this is a carburetor. It's not, it's just something with a clutch or one of the brake are broken, and who to trust and how to make decision with a desire to surrender to Krishna.
Yes.
And what does that mean to surrender to Krishna as we deal with all those decision making around the maintenance of the body, really?
Okay. So I hear you saying, like, okay, so the body's like, it needs repair, it's breaking down. Yeah, what's the process for decision making? That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the process for decision making connected with surrendering to the Lord. Like, oh, I don't do anything. Oh, do I trust that person? Do I make that decision or that decision or so many decisions? And then it becomes like so not conducive for spiritual life, because then my mind gets absorbed in decision making.
Yeah.
And then
it becomes
what
like
surrender means.
Yeah. Like surrender to what?
Surrender to what?
Yeah.
Surrender. Okay, internally, okay, I can understand surrender. Okay, I surrender Krishna. But externally, what that surrender will look like, making any decision, and any decision are as good as another decision. Is that also surrender? You know, all that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing and asking. Well, what's coming to me is, some, like, yeah, not to go into like whatever, to really give our sincere effort to apply our intelligence, do our research, and work like everything depends on us. In this case, research, consult, and pray like everything depends on Krishna. Like, do our best to chant with attentiveness, even with some intention to get guidance from Super Soul. Even in this situation related to our body, deeper realization, it's not my body, okay? Doesn't mean I don't care, but Krishna, this is your body. I want to use it for your instruments when we're chanting, when we're listening to a lecture from Prabhupada, to be an intention to, endeavor to be a clean recipient of whatever Super Soul wants to guide us, while simultaneously work like everything depends. Let me do my research and do my best to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of different options. That's kind of like the integration that comes to me here.
I appreciate that. Like, it's not my body, it's not my vehicle, it's Krishna's vehicle. Okay, Krishna, like, you need to guide me to take care of the vehicle, it's yours. I appreciate that. And then like the other part of like working like everything depends on us, and making research and forming ourselves. And then there is a point of decision making, because the decision making is covered by fault. It is going to be covered by fault. But at one point or another, like the research and formation need to stop.
Yeah.
And make a decision. And then in that decision making, if we are guided by the Lord, that's great. But if we are not, then just accepting, okay, well, that's the clarity I have. I'm moving forward, and then whatever consequences may come from my decision making, I just accept it, Krishna.
Accept it as my new context for devotional service.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melanie.
Yeah.
Laura.
I just have one small question and maybe a comment. I just want to know, it says the Karmi thinks of this world as mine, and the Jnani thinks I am everything. I'm just curious, like,
sure.
Try to understand.
Prabhupada's talking about different classes of people.
Right.
And there's more than that, but in this purport, the Karmi means one who's just acting materially, just act according to karma. There's no real effort for transcendence. It's like, this is my job, my family, my community. In one sense, to be a karmi is very elevated, because most of us were brought up in what's called vikarma, which means someone's just going for sense enjoyment without any responsibility or regulation. A karmi is someone, my goal is sense enjoyment, and I'm going to do it according to some respectable regulations, but it's material.
So is karma, it's talking like a karma yoga
Karma.
action, like
Yeah,
action.
excellent.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Material action.
Yeah.
And then the other one, the jnani, is someone who is like, yeah, this is all futile. This doesn't provide real fulfillment. This is illusory. There's some realization there. And then they start, okay, but so what is real? And then jnani means like the English word knowledge comes from the Sanskrit jnani,
Yeah.
or the Greek gnosis comes from the Sanskrit jnani. So like, yeah, I don't want to just live like a sort of sophisticated animal life for sense gratification. This is illusory. They start thinking about things. What is true?
Yeah.
And many times they come to the conclusion, yes, we are all one. We are all spirit.
Mm. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm appreciating it because my own experience in different types of yoga.
Yeah.
Right, like serving as a karma yogi, and then I've
Yeah.
done a lot of knowledge and reading, and this is my first time really going deeper into bhakti, so appreciating that. And then I just wanted to make a comment or like a reflection on some that you spoke about and some memories that came up for me. So like, yeah, the all is one. Like I've had a lot of experience with that, and I like it. Like
Yeah.
it's like having me reflect on it, especially like some dances I've done. There's some dances of universal peace, and it's really beautiful. You know, we dance together in a circle, all do the same thing, and you chant all different names of God. And so as I'm reflecting on it with what you're speaking about and what I've been living in, and like feeling like the devotion in that, and then I'm really appreciating like obviously like bhakti, but then Savatov and the seminars and how it's all blended now for me. But like the use of empathy and meeting people where they're at, and then also like, yeah, I want more spiritual relationships. Like I don't want to just like let go of relationships, and I've never really been too satisfied, and obviously I've had many problems with material relationships, but I really appreciate it and enjoy opportunities for more spiritual relationships. Where am I going? Circle back. So, the dances. So I'm thinking about one memory especially, and thinking about that experience. And yeah, it's like heart opening, but it does feel selfish, because it's like my own feeling, and it feels so good what I'm doing. And this is like, it's so joyful and openness, but for me, it was temporary in that way. And also the relationships there, and this is just my experience. It wasn't like totally part of this group.
Yeah.
But even so, when I shared myself, or like sharing, and this could be, my little internal experience of it. But even in that, the relationships, it didn't feel like, okay, how we use the empathy and really meeting people, it wasn't there in that. And so it felt like, here I am dancing, looking into these people's eyes, like having this like heart blown open experience of God and connecting. And then like, here I am trying to connect with these beings after, and I'm like sucked back into like a lot of stuff. And I get that was my experience. Like all those people might have been feeling totally different in love, because they all know each other. But I'm not feeling that here when I meet people and stuff. And like, I know, not just here, but the bhakti, like the element of bhakti. So I just wanted to share that as I was like sitting with some of the reflecting on that.
Thanks for sharing that, Laura. Thanks very much. Yeah, as I said, it's, for those who would go towards spiritual life, the oneness, it's somewhat of a garden variety realization, and it's real, and it's liberating, and it's wonderful, and it's not complete. Because then we went, okay, so on the platform of liberation from material drama, okay, we want spiritual relation, and that's where bhakti includes and transcends the oneness. Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.